That's when I was shooting with Tyga on a pretty consistent basis, and just told me to come to the studio. And I remember just walking in the room and seeing Pharrell. And I mean, I've never really been the like biggest Pharrell fan, but like I know how much of a legend he is. I know how influential he is, and so that was pretty crazy. I think he was a dope person, super down to earth. So that was like a pretty favorite shoot of mine. That was cool.
I need a beam. I just want a beam. I am not a blogger, but I'm a deli chief.
So yeah, let's just start it off with, where are you from and how'd you get started into photography?
So yeah, I'm from like middle of nowhere, New Jersey, a town called West Windsor, which is next to a town called Princeton. And pretty much how I got started in photography was the university, Princeton University, booked K-Camp, I think back in like, it must have been like 2014, 2015, for one of their like frats but dining clubs. Mm-hmm. And I remember someone told me about it on Snapchat, and like 20 minutes later, both my parents drove me. They're like, what are you doing? Like, they didn't really get it, because at that point, I never really took photos at like a concert. So they were trying to like, sort of figure it out just as I was. And yeah, I just got on stage with like K-Camp. And then like from the moment I got on stage, I was like, damn, this is what I want to do. So at that point, like it was early in sort of there were obviously people taking photos of musicians and stuff. It wasn't anything new. But it definitely, for like the newer kids, like they didn't really have photographers, so I could easily sort of just DM and be like, yo, like I'd love to work with you, sort of build through that way.
Were you doing any type of photography before then?
Yeah, so I used to take like photos of abandoned buildings. Like I would go on like train tracks and stuff. Like my mom took me to she hooked it up. She took me to like abandoned power plants. She came in. She was down too, and so that was cool. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I started, abandoned buildings and just like, random photos that every person starting photography takes, and then sort of morphed it.
Did she have any like experience in photography, or just kind of just saw that you were into it and supported it?
I think she just sort of saw I was into it and supported. I mean, my sister had a camera. That's like the first camera I ever touched was one from my sister when I was a kid. And I think like in third grade, I won like a photo competition for taking this photo of a tree. Mm-hmm. And so I think it like definitely from a younger age there was something there, but it wasn't developed, and it wasn't like something I was really focused on until started doing like real stuff.
So as a seasoned photographer, like creative, like what do you think is the difference from shooting a festival and shooting a cover shoot for like maybe artwork or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, so a festival is sort of just like, at least for me, the way I look at it, it's really like controlled chaos. Like it's just, you're running all over the place. It could be hot, could be cold, and you don't really have control over the shots you're getting. It's almost like fishing. Like you really don't know what you're gonna get until it's right in front of you out of the water on the camera screen, or you get it developed. So that's, I think, one of the difficulties with that is like going into it, you can't really have a creative plan. You can try, you can do your best, but at the end of the day, you never know what you're gonna get. Then on the opposite side, doing a cover, like you were there for the Comethazine cover, you can plan stuff out, you can figure out what you need, you can sort of go into it knowing what shot you're gonna get, and you can sort of build up a little higher quality, higher production value, because you sort of know what you're gonna get. So that's the two differences.
And like your vision can come out.
Yeah, so you can pretty much, you can put your vision into the art.
Cool. Like, so I guess leading off of that, like the Comethazine shoot, like did you have a certain like I want this exact shot, or do you kind of like go, I'm gonna get like these 5 or 6 shots that I want to get, and then kind of go from there?
I think it was more so of just like, this is what the shoot is. I wasn't going into it looking for specific photos. I was going into it knowing, okay, this is the setup, this is the production, this is everything that's going to be here. How can I make this, the best possible, content? And so pretty much on that aspect, I didn't go into it knowing what photos I was going to get. I was seeing what vibe he was in, what he liked, what he didn't like, and sort of trying to build a shot around that, what he wanted. So that was, but I liked it. It was cool, and I loved the cover. I loved the the other version too. I think it was probably one of my favorite like real big shoots, and that was my first like real production cover shoot too. So that made it even better.
I think they used 2 of them. I think we used one as like artwork, I think.
Yeah. Well, I posted the cover, and then there was a second one where he was sitting down, and it was just like it was too hard not to be seen. So
The one with like all the
he was sitting down. He had his boots like this. Like I don't know. I just loved it. But
So one thing I wanted to ask is like, you know, the networking aspect of it. Like, how important do you think networking is for up and coming photographer? Like, if someone right now is watching this and they're kind of thinking about getting in photography, like, what do you think the importance of networking is?
yeah, I mean, I, honestly, if I were to break it down into a percent, I don't want to say like 50% is like really just networking and, you know, trying to get yourself into a position where people trust you, people trust your vision, you know, you have a good reputation to deliver content quality and all that. And, you know, networking at the base is the only way you're going to get that done. So, you know, reaching out on Instagram, finding emails, finding contacts, whatever, you know, that's just at the core. I think to get where I'm at, like networking was a must. I don't think I'd be here if, you know, I didn't know how to network and slide in DMs and figure stuff out. So
I think networking is honestly the most important thing for a lot of things.
yeah, I mean, because that's just how you get yourself out there. You know, if I didn't get myself out there, then, you know, where would I be?
Yeah.
So
it's like the importance of social media too. Like,
yeah.
like you have to have, you know, social media skills, I think, in this day and age to kind of really take what's going on at this point.
I mean, in building off that, even like, you know, in the old days, like say like Ricky Powell, another legendary photographer, like he didn't have social media, but even just his work and his like reputation and, you know, the network that he did have minus the social media part, you know, carried him a long way and got him in some crazy spots to take some crazy photos. So just, I think networking in general is a super important part.
Yeah, of course. Do you think that you would, you know, do you like working in the entertainment side of things? Would you try to get into fashion? Like, is this music industry more of what you think is like, because I think there's a lot of angles to photography. Like, you can do nature, you can do, you know, like you said, you kind of grew up doing the building stuff. Like,
yeah.
Do you like doing the music industry stuff more? Do you think of doing stuff in the future of other stuff, like kind of fashion related or anything in that sort?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with, you know, a few different clothing brands doing shoots for them, and I like that because it almost going back to the cover conversation, it gives you more sort of creative, it gives you more creative pull on, you know, this is how I want stuff to look, this is how, you know, and this is how it came out. Whereas, you know, music sometimes it depends on the situation, but a lot of times it's sort of just you're on a whim. You don't really know what you're gonna get, and, you know, you're just pulling up on people and stuff like that. And I think this year that's something I'm sort of trying to move away from, and I'm really trying to do bigger projects with artists, you know, cover shoots, press photos, whatever it is, stuff like that. But yeah.
I like the fishing analogy. I really think like
Yeah.
it's true. Like, you can't really, you go out and hope, you know, you have a vision, like we're gonna go to this spot, you know, there's a bunch of tarp here or whatever it
Yeah.
is, or whatever fish is, you know, like we're gonna go to this area, but you may not catch anything. You know?
Yeah.
You might not get what you really want out of it.
And doing, say, fashion or, you know, other stuff, you sort of, I mean, it obviously always depends on the situation, but at least, you know, brands I've worked with, they give me full control of a lot of stuff. And so that gives me, you know, in my head, I can sort of figure out, okay, I have a more solid idea that I'm going to get this shot and this is how it's going to look. And, you know, that's the quality of content I'm going to give them at the end of the day, rather than, you know, artists fishing. You really never know. You could get a bass, you could get a little minnow, you don't know, you know what I mean? You could get nothing. So
Have you thought of working in video and kind of getting into that side of things, or maybe a creative director role? Like, have you thought of those two things?
yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to. I mean, video is cool, and I don't know. It's just not truly my thing. I don't love it. I can't really sit behind a computer and edit all the time. I mean, it definitely has, you know, its benefits and stuff, but I still think there's something like sort of different about still photography. And I mean, yeah, I'd love to creative direct stuff. I think I have some great ideas for certain things, and I've been blessed to have an opportunity in some shoots to sort of creative direct stuff and, you know, help people out. So I think that's also something I sort of want to like work forward to and put myself in those positions more this year.
Well, you don't have to necessarily edit too. You know, you could just, you know,
Yeah.
kind of like, not in a director role, but kind of be someone that maybe comes up with the treatments, comes
Yeah.
up with the color scheme, maybe comes up with, you know, or just be like the eye in the sky, if you will, and kind of like, you know, navigate everything that's kind of happening.
Yeah, I mean, and whenever I hopefully I can put myself in more positions this year to, you know, have that opportunity. But I'd always love to try new stuff. So maybe that's something down the road.
Love that. One thing I was, you know, kind of going through everything that you've done, I saw one photo that stuck out to me. Obviously, you've worked with, you you know, tons of great people. Doug, you know, you name an artist, you've shot them. But one thing that kind of came up to me was the Pharrell photo.
Okay.
How was that experience?
Man, that whole trip was good. I mean, I really thought before you even said Pharrell, I thought you were gonna mention the Breaking Bad one, because most people sort of ask me like, "Yo, how?" Like, it's so random. Like, what? But yeah, Pharrell. That was when I was shooting with Tyga on a pretty consistent basis, and just told me to come to the studio, and I remember just walking in the room and seeing Pharrell. And I mean, I've never really been the like biggest Pharrell fan, but like I know how much of a legend he is. I know, you know, how influential he is, and so that was pretty crazy. I think he was a dope person, super down to earth. So that was like a pretty favorite shoot of mine. That was cool.
Well, I was gonna lead into the Breaking Bad one as well. Like, no, you're good. No, it's because for me, I'm a big Pharrell fan. So for me, when I see that, as much as the Breaking Bad photo is cool to me, getting in the studio with one of the greatest creatives of all time is epic to me.
Yeah.
So how did the Breaking Bad photo come?
Yeah, I was with so I'm friends with Wires Only, RD, and so he moves around with Jamie Foxx a lot. So I think this was during the Super Bowl in Miami. And so, you know, it's crazy down there during the Super Bowl. And so running around with Jamie Foxx and RD, and we end up going to this like charity fundraiser party on Star Island. And just randomly, I turn around, Bryan Cranston and Jesse Pinkman. That's his movie name.
Yeah, I don't know his actual. I'm not good with actors and actresses.
But whatever, they're standing right behind me, and I'm like, wow. And I was like, do you guys mind if I get a photo? They both just posed right there, and that was just like, geez. And that's like, for people, you know, like older people, like my parents' friends, you know, teachers and stuff that don't really understand the rap, or, you know, they don't really know who people are. Like, that's always that one standout photo where they're like, geez, like what? So it's a cool photo just for that reason. Like, I think it's, you know, it's it's outside the scope of what I normally.
It's a broader base.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. You led into a thing that I was really interested in, being someone that's kind of interested in photography and myself. One thing that I think does it come over the years, or does it come naturally, like the asking for a photo, right? Like, I think the confidence to ask for, hey, can I get a picture? Does that come after experiencing a lot of photos and like going through like a ton of, you know, concerts or whatever you name it, you know, does it come like that, or do you think it kind of comes natural, or is it a mix of both?
I mean, honestly, when I first started, I didn't care. I was asking everyone for a photo. You know what I mean? Because that was just me being excited, being like, holy shit, like that's Metro Boomin, or like, you know, that's Uzi, like what? And then, you know, I sort of grew up and matured a little, and I realized like you got to read the vibe, and, you know, calm down a little. That's how you build relationships. And, you know, especially going on tour with Perp, you learn a lot pretty quick. So I sort of calmed down for a little. I mean, now it's sort of, you know, you read the vibe of the room or wherever you're at. You know, you can tell when people want photos and people don't. But I think at the end of the day too, it's having, you know, making sure the person you're shooting is comfortable with who you are. You know what I mean? Because if they're not comfortable with you, you're not going to get a good photo. So it's like there's a lot of things that sort of tie into that. But definitely, you know, you got to have confidence, and you got to be strong with your voice. Be like, can I get a photo of you? You know what I mean? You don't say it like that sometimes, to say, can I get a portrait of you? Can I get a photo of you? Do you want a photo? You know what I mean? There's different things. You sort of just got to like judge it by
the situation.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big part of it, because, you know, for me, I honestly forget sometimes I even have a camera, and I don't even ask. So
yeah,
it's one of those things. So you mentioned the Perp tour, the Tyga tour. Like, what are those the two tours that you've worked on, or what other tours have you worked on?
Well, end of this year I got off tour with Trippy, so that was pretty cool. I mean, it was cool because it sort of completed the scope of like how tours are done. With Perp, you know, we flew commercial, took like Sprinter vans to shows, did all that. We're on the road, so that was cool. Tyga, it was, you know, private jets, whatever, everywhere. Trippy was a bus tour, so you sort of get to see like, you know, how touring in the music industry works. So that was pretty cool. The bus was nice because, you know, you got to go to sleep and you woke up in the next city. You didn't have to deal with the airport. Obviously, a private jet, can't really beat that. And Perps was cool just as, you know, as my first tour, just being, you know, I think I was like 17, 18. And my parents had to talk to the guidance counselor, get me out of school and all that. And so that was just cool. It was my first tour. I've never really seen the world anywhere. Never really like left the country. So getting to see, Canada, the U.S., Europe with him, that was just sort of a dope experience, especially, him at his prime. It was dope.
So how did like this even begin? Like when did like Garrett Bruce, the name, started to like where people were reaching out to have you come on tour? Like for example, the Perp one or whatnot. Like when did it start to click in that world?
With Perp, I sort of just, what really, and I think this goes for every photographer, you just got to build a relationship and be consistent. Every time Perp was in New York, I was there. Anytime he was in Jersey, I was there. I was always asking to shoot. And, eventually he gets comfortable with you, start, a little friendship, business friendship, and you go from there. And sort of the same thing then with Target, my boy Armin recommended me. And so you sort of just got to same with networking, sort of just, I built up a lot of friends. I have a lot of connections. So when they need someone that go on tour, say they can't, or, they're in the position to be like, hey, do you want to go on this tour? Then, so it's been a blessing. I definitely have some dope friends that, look out and take care of.
What is your favorite photo you've ever shot?
My favorite photo, that's a hard question.
It could be a series of photos. It doesn't need to be,
it's
gotta be
it depends. I feel like, there's some standouts, obviously, like, Kanye one, sort of just, it's Kanye. Like, how do you beat that? Miley, all the photos I took with Miley, like, that was a crazy shoot. I didn't even know I was going to shoot her until I got to the studio and she walked in. So that was crazy. I think, like, one of the most special shoots I've done was Pop Smoke for Spotify. Because that was, like, if not one of the last photo shoots he did. And sort of a full circle moment was I used to walk through Times Square and, going to the studio when I was like 14, 15, 16, and seeing, all the billboards and stuff going to Quad, Penthouse, whatever. And then being able to have your own photo in Times Square from that shoot was just sort of like a crazy full circle moment.
It was on a billboard?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was crazy. But, the one at Uzi in the crowd, that's like something I've sort of grown to love. There's one of Baby that looks just like his album cover. But, I have a bunch. The one of what you said, Perp and Pump, throwing money after they got out of the strip club. Every photo to me has its own story, and it's like in each way, it's like they're all my favorite. But because I really don't want to put out a lot of stuff just because if I put a photo out, it's something that like I really love and like there's a story behind it, and I think it's like my best work. So
that's the honestly the beauty of photography, I think, is that it kind of has its own story. Each one is a moment kind of captured in time. Yeah. And you can kind of go back through your memories and kind of go, wow, I love this part.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess the last thing I want to ask is, what do you have to say to any kid right now that is, looking to be in photography or looking just to make it in the music industry? Like, what's some advice that you think has helped you throughout the years?
Honestly, I'm going to put it sort of in a broader sort of perspective. Like, in high school, like, when I first started doing stuff, like, people were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, they didn't really get it. And, anything in high school, stuff like that, people are always going to be like, what the fuck? It's just how it is. And, one thing I really learned is, like, if you put your mind to something, and this is something, like, I really live by now because I've seen it happen in person. Like, if you really put your mind to something, like, you'll get it. Like, there's no way it doesn't happen.
May not be the right time.
May not be the right time. You might be in a different position, but, like, if you really put your mind to something, you really want something, you can get it. And I sort of live my life that way. If I want something, I do everything I can to go get it. And so, tying that into the music industry, I would be in class, and I hated school. I wasn't, like, the best student. I wasn't terrible. I really, school wasn't my forte. And I would be in class all day, just hitting up managers, finding emails, being on Twitter, and like I would literally just be on my phone, not paying attention in class, just trying to hustle, just trying to get that connect, trying to network. And there was a point like Murder Beats was at Jungle, and he had Quavo up there one day, Offset on the next. Offset was like on a Thursday. So I went to the studio right after school, got on the train, studio all night, came home at 6 a.m., went to school, and then went back to shoot Quavo. Like, it's just like, but I knew, like, I never really was in the studio with them. Like, I knew it would be good photos, so I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna hustle. You know what I mean? And so just, like, really hustling, like, really just sort of putting your mind to something, that's, like, it's the biggest thing. I think that's truly, honestly, like, why I've got so far and where I am, and it's a blessing, but just putting your mind to something and really trying to get what you want at the end of the day.
And sticking to it.
Yeah, and sticking to it. I mean, there's probably nothing in my life I've like actually stuck into. Like, I've done Boy Scouts, got out of there. Like, I've done other stuff, and it just, I've said I'm going to do other things, and I sort of just, after a while, you just get lazy and you don't want to do it. But, I mean, especially with photography, it's a true passion. I just put my mind to it, and even other stuff. Just put your mind to it and get it done.
Well, that's really when you love something. I was the same way. I never really could find a path. I got fired from pretty much every job in like a month or so. And couldn't find a job, didn't really know what career I wanted to do. But when I figured out music was something I liked, I could pay attention to it all day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's sort of like the biggest thing I would tell someone trying to start is, really make sure it's your passion, and if it is, just go 110% all the time. And just learn photography, learn the basics, try and better yourself, and try and work on something that's gonna help you out every single day. Like I saw recently, there were some posts floating around, like if you're an artist and you're not making a TikTok, a Triller, a song in the studio every day, then you're not doing anything to help your career. So like try and do something every day to help your career.
I need a